Okay, so everybody knows Huawei, right? Like they make smartphones. But get this, they're jumping into the world of GPUs. Those
Wow.
chips that power everything from like the sickest video games to like crazy complex AI. We're
Yeah,
talking about like going right after the biggest name in the business, NVIDIA.
it's definitely a big move, for sure.
So I don't think most people really understand like what a GPU is.
Right.
Can you break that down for
Yeah,
us?
so GPU stands for Graphics Processing Unit, and it's basically the brains behind all visual computing.
Okay.
So when you're looking at those like crazy graphics in video games,
Yeah.
it's the GPU that's doing all the heavy lifting.
Oh, okay.
But it's not just games anymore.
Yeah.
GPUs are also becoming super important for things like AI and machine learning,
Right.
which are like changing the game in so many different industries.
Okay, so speaking of changing the game, NVIDIA has been on top for a while now.
Yeah, they've been the king for a while.
So what's their secret?
Well, I think it's a few things.
Okay,
Obviously, they make super powerful hardware,
right.
but they've also built this incredible software ecosystem around it.
Okay,
It's like, think of it like this, like imagine you buy a supercar,
okay.
but there are no roads to drive it on.
Uh-huh.
That's what it would be like to have a GPU without like good software to support it.
Mm,
So for example, NVIDIA has this platform called CUDA,
right.
and it's become like the industry standard for a lot of developers working in like AI or scientific computing.
Yeah, CUDA, that sounds familiar. I've heard that before.
Yeah.
So is Huawei trying to make like their own version of CUDA?
Well, not exactly.
Okay.
I don't think they're going to like directly compete with NVIDIA's ecosystem.
Hmm.
Instead, they're kind of focusing on specific areas where they see a chance to do something different.
So like picking their battles
Yeah, exactly.
instead of trying to win the whole war.
Exactly. They're looking at it and saying, okay, where can we make a difference? Where
Okay.
can we offer something unique?
Got it.
And one of those areas is in training large-scale AI models.
Okay, so break that down for me.
So think of those like huge AI models that power like self-driving cars or that analyze medical images.
Right.
Those models need massive amounts of data and processing power to train.
Okay.
And that's where Huawei is trying to make a splash with their new GPU,
Oh, okay.
the Ascend 920C.
Okay, so let's get into this Ascend 920C.
Okay.
What's the deal? Is it just another GPU or are they doing something like totally radical with this?
Well, this is where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
They actually designed this whole new architecture from the ground up, specifically optimized for like AI and machine learning.
Wow.
It's like they built a Formula One race car for the AI track,
Okay.
while NVIDIA is still using like a modified street car.
Got it.
Both can get around the track, but the race car is designed for pure speed and efficiency.
Okay, I love that analogy. So it's not just about raw power, it's about using that power efficiently for the right task.
Exactly.
Okay.
And the early benchmarks suggest that Huawei might be onto something.
Hmm.
They're saying the Ascend 920C can handle these massive AI workloads much faster than NVIDIA's top chips.
Hold on, are you saying they're saying they can beat NVIDIA in the area where NVIDIA is supposed to be the...
That's exactly what they're saying.
Whoa.
And some early tests seem to back it up.
Really?
Of course, we'll need to see more tests in like real-world applications
Sure.
to know for sure, but it's definitely a big statement,
Yeah, that's definitely getting people's attention.
for sure.
Okay, so, but let's talk about the elephant in the room here.
Sure.
The U.S. sanctions against Huawei.
Yeah.
Like, how are they making cutting-edge chips like this with those restrictions in place?
I mean, it's a real testament to their commitment to innovation.
Yeah.
Even with all these challenges, they've been investing heavily in chip manufacturing,
Hmm.
developing their own technologies to not have to rely on foreign suppliers.
So they're not just competing in the GPU market. They're trying to become more self-sufficient.
Yeah, it's a multi-layered story, for sure.
Yeah.
And it's impressive that they can develop this level of technology while dealing with all that.
It really is.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've talked about AI, but what about gaming? Are they going after NVIDIA's GeForce line too?
Well, their main focus is AI for sure,
Okay.
but they're not ignoring gamers.
Okay.
The Ascent 920C has some cool features for gaming,
Okay.
like AI-powered rendering.
Hmm.
That could make visuals even better.
Hold on. Are they saying they can make games look better than NVIDIA's RTX cards?
Well, they're definitely hinting at that. They're talking
Oh.
about using AI to create more realistic lighting and shadows and reflections,
Okay.
and even generate like whole scenes or characters in real time.
Okay, now that is straight out of a sci-fi movie, AI creating game worlds in real time.
Pretty wild.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
But let's be real here.
Yeah.
They're entering a market where everyone knows NVIDIA.
right.
Like, gamers are loyal to their brands.
Yeah.
How are they going to break through?
Well, they're taking a page from their smartphone playbook.
Okay, how so?
Focusing on affordability,
Oh, okay.
they're aiming to offer similar performance to NVIDIA's high-end GPUs,
Okay.
but at a much lower price.
So, like the bang for your buck approach.
Exactly.
Appealing to gamers who want the best performance but don't want to spend a fortune.
Exactly.
And that worked really well for them with smartphones.
It did.
It'll be interesting to see if it works in the gaming world.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm already seeing how this could shake things up.
Definitely.
But there's so much more to this story. We've
Yeah.
only scratched the surface.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, what happens if Huawei actually challenges NVIDIA's dominance? What does that mean for the whole tech world?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what we're going to explore in part 2 of this deep dive.
Okay, I'm hooked. This is already one of the most interesting deep dives we've done.
I think so too.
So listeners, get ready to go even deeper into the world of GPUs and AI
Definitely.
and global tech rivalries in part 2.
It's going to be...
We'll be right back. Okay, so we're back and ready to keep digging into this whole Huawei GPU thing.
Yeah.
Last time we were talking about, like, what happens if they actually challenge NVIDIA?
Right.
What could that mean for the whole tech world?
Yeah, that's the big question, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
It's kind of like dropping a pebble in a pond.
Hmm.
The ripples spread out, and the effects can be felt like way beyond that initial impact.
So where do we even start?
Well, one of the most immediate things would be, like, the effect on the industry itself.
Okay.
Like, more competition is almost always a good thing for consumers.
Yeah, like that saying, a rising tide lifts all boats.
Exactly.
Everyone wins when there's good competition.
Right. And especially in tech, where everything's changing so fast,
Yeah.
that competition is what keeps pushing the boundaries of what's possible.
But it's not just like faster chips and cheaper prices.
No, definitely not.
There's a bigger picture here, especially with like all the geopolitics involved.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Huawei's push to make their own chips and AI hardware.
Right.
It's all part of China's big plan to become a leader in tech.
Right. So if Huawei wins, it's a win for China too.
Yeah, you could definitely see it that way.
Hmm.
And that's kind of freaking out the U.S. and other Western countries.
Really?
Yeah, they see Huawei's success as a threat to their own tech dominance.
So this is about more than just like money and market share.
Oh, yeah.
It's like a tech arms race.
It's definitely got that element to it, for sure.
Wow.
Control over these technologies is super important these days.
Right.
It affects everything from national security to, like, how competitive a country is economically.
This is starting to sound like a spy movie or something.
It is pretty wild.
Okay, but let's zoom out for a second and think about the average person.
Okay.
How does all this affect like our everyday lives?
Well, on the one hand, it could lead to some amazing advancements that benefit everyone.
Okay, like what?
Like, imagine faster medical breakthroughs.
Okay.
Or, like, more efficient transportation systems.
Right.
Or even, like, personalized education tailored to how you learn best.
Okay, that sounds amazing. Personalized education.
Yeah.
Sign me up.
But, of course, there are always potential downsides.
Right, like what?
One of the big worries is, like, jobs being replaced by AI.
Yeah, I've heard about that, like AI taking over jobs.
Yeah, as AI gets more sophisticated, it could start doing a lot of the jobs that people do now.
And it's not just like factory jobs or
Yeah.
truck drivers, right?
No, not at all.
AI is already being used in like finance and law.
Exactly.
Wow.
And that raises all sorts of ethical questions.
Like what?
Like, how do we make sure AI is used ethically
Right.
and doesn't just make existing inequalities worse?
Yeah.
How do we protect people's privacy? Make sure
Right.
their data isn't being misused?
These are big questions.
ER.
And we need to be thinking about them now.
Absolutely.
Not waiting until it's too late.
We need to have these conversations now
Yeah.
and involve everyone, ethicists, policymakers, the public.
So it's not just about the technology, it's about the impact it has on society.
Exactly.
Okay.
And one thing I find really interesting
Yeah.
is what this could mean for scientific research.
Okay.
Like, if powerful GPUs become more affordable,
Right.
it could give smaller research labs and universities the ability to do groundbreaking experiments,
Okay.
analyze huge data sets that they couldn't access before.
So it could actually make scientific discovery more accessible to everyone.
Exactly. It's like giving everyone the tools to explore the universe.
I love that idea.
Yeah, it's exciting.
Okay, but let's get back to Huawei for a minute.
Okay.
They have a long way to go if they really want to take on NVIDIA.
Yeah, they do.
What are the biggest challenges they face?
Well, like we talked about before, the U.S. sanctions are a huge obstacle.
Right, they're still in place.
Yeah, they've found ways to work around them, but it's a constant struggle to get the components they need
Yeah.
and the manufacturing capacity.
Right, it's like running a marathon with weights on your ankles.
Exactly.
But even if they get past that,
Right.
they still have to build a whole ecosystem around their GPUs.
That's exactly right.
Like, NVIDIA's success isn't just about their hardware.
Nope.
It's about everything they've built around it.
Right.
The software, the developers, the
It's
partnerships.
a huge advantage for NVIDIA.
Yeah.
And Huawei needs to figure out how to catch up.
So they need to make great hardware,
Uh-huh.
but also convince developers and gamers to use their platform.
It's a tall order.
It sounds like a huge challenge.
It is.
But Huawei is known for being pretty tenacious.
They are.
They've surprised people before.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't count them out.
Never underestimate them.
Okay, so let's shift gears a bit and talk about gaming.
Okay.
We've talked about some of the features of the Ascend 920C, but can they really compete with NVIDIA and AMD in the gaming world?
Yeah, that's the big question for gamers, isn't it?
Yeah.
The specs look good on paper,
Okay.
but the gaming world is tough.
Right.
Gamers are passionate,
Yeah.
and they expect a lot.
High standards.
Yeah, when it comes to performance and graphics and just the whole experience.
So what does Huawei need to do to win over gamers?
It's a tricky balance.
Okay.
Obviously, performance is key.
Right.
Gamers want smooth frame rates and amazing visuals
Yeah.
and no lag.
But it's also about the whole package, the software, the drivers, the community, the games.
All of that matters.
It's not just about the specs.
Nope.
It's about how it all comes together in the actual game.
Exactly.
And that's where Huawei has a tough road ahead.
Yeah.
NVIDIA and AMD have a huge head start.
Right.
They've spent years building relationships with game developers, optimizing their drivers, building a loyal fan base.
It could be hard to catch up.
So how do they even start?
Well, they're trying to be strategic.
Okay, how so?
One thing they're doing is partnering with game developers,
Okay,
giving them incentives to optimize their games for Huawei's hardware.
okay.
They're also investing in their own gaming ecosystem, making tools and resources for developers to make it easier to bring games to their platforms.
So trying to make it easy for developers to work with them.
Exactly.
But what about the gamers themselves?
Right.
How are they going to attract players?
Well, they're focusing on two things.
Okay,
Affordability
right.
and innovation.
Okay,
Like we talked about before, they're aiming to offer similar performance to NVIDIA and AMD, but at a lower price.
okay.
And they're also really pushing the AI-powered features,
Yeah,
promising more realistic graphics,
Okay.
a more immersive experience,
right.
even new ways to play games using AI.
So they're trying to appeal to both budget-conscious gamers and the hardcore enthusiasts?
Exactly. Trying to cover all the bases.
It's a bold strategy.
It is.
We'll have to see if it pays off.
Time will tell.
But they're definitely shaking things up.
Oh, yeah,
We'll be keeping an eye on this, for sure.
definitely.
Okay, so beyond the marketing and the hype,
Right.
what are the real implications of Huawei entering the gaming market?
Yeah.
Could this really change the whole gaming landscape?
I think that's what's so fascinating about this.
Yeah,
It's not just a new GPU.
right.
It's about how it could change the way we play and experience games.
So it's not just about better graphics.
Nope.
It's about the evolution of gaming itself.
Exactly.
Wow.
And that's what we'll be exploring in part 3 of this deep dive.
Okay.
We'll look at how Huawei's tech could actually change the future of gaming.
I'm excited to hear this.
Yeah,
Okay, so listeners, get ready to level up your understanding of gaming
for sure.
as we continue our deep dive into Huawei's GPU revolution. Okay, so we're back, and it's time for the final part of our deep dive into Huawei's GPU ambitions.
Yeah,
We've covered a lot, like the tech specs, the whole China-US thing.
right.
But now let's talk about gaming.
Yeah,
You know, it's what I'm most interested in.
of course.
So you were saying earlier that Huawei getting into gaming could be a real game changer.
It really could.
No pun intended.
Exactly.
But, okay, we've talked about the AI features and how they're going to be cheaper, but
Right.
how's that actually going to work? Like, how could Huawei's tech really change the way games look and feel?
Well, one big area is graphics.
Okay.
We've seen what NVIDIA's RTX can do with ray tracing and all that.
Yeah, it looks amazing.
But Huawei's taking it up a notch
How so?
by basically adding AI into the whole rendering process.
Since instead of just using raw power, they're making the rendering smarter.
Yeah, that's the idea.
Huh.
They're talking about using AI to like predict and generate realistic lighting and shadows and reflections,
Okay.
but using way less processing power to do it.
So games could look even better than they do now.
Potentially way better.
Wow. Okay, I'm already picturing these crazy, realistic game worlds.
Yeah.
But what about the gameplay itself? Could AI actually change how games are played?
Oh, absolutely.
How so?
One of the most exciting things is using AI to make game worlds more dynamic and responsive.
Okay, listening.
Imagine enemies that adapt to your playstyle,
Okay.
levels that change based on the choices you make,
Oh, wow.
characters that actually feel like real people.
That would be incredible. It's like those old games where you had to memorize enemy patterns.
Right?
But now the game is learning as you play.
Exactly. It's taking that to a whole new level.
Mm.
Games could become less about following a script
Okay.
and more about exploring these like emergent possibilities.
So it's not just about making games prettier.
Nope.
It's about making them smarter.
Yeah, and more engaging.
This reminds me of like when VR first came out.
Right.
Everyone was so excited about the potential,
Yeah.
but the tech just wasn't there yet.
Yeah.
Is this different? Can Huawei actually deliver on all this?
I think that's the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
We've heard a lot of hype about AI in gaming,
Right.
but this time it feels different.
Okay, why?
The technology has come a long way,
Okay.
and these new GPUs are crazy powerful.
So you're saying this is not just a marketing gimmick?
I really don't think so.
Okay.
We need to see how it works in actual games, of course,
Sure.
but the potential is definitely there.
Okay, so let's say Huawei pulls it off.
Okay.
They deliver on everything they're promising.
Right.
They build a real gaming ecosystem.
Yeah. Gamers love their stuff. Okay. Is that the end of NVIDIA? Well, I wouldn't count NVIDIA out just yet.
Okay.
They're a tough competitor.
Right, they've been around forever.
Yeah, they know what they're doing.
So maybe not the end, but a big shift in the landscape.
Yeah, I think that's more likely.
Okay.
We're going to see multiple companies fighting for the top spot in gaming.
And that's good for gamers, right?
Definitely.
More competition, better games, lower prices.
Exactly.
A rising tide lifts all boats.
Love that analogy.
But in this case, the tide is AI and the boats are full of gamers.
That's a good one.
And it's not just about the big companies either.
Right.
Cheaper, powerful GPUs could help smaller developers make amazing games too.
Yeah, it could be a golden age for indie games.
So more creativity, more innovation.
Exactly.
I like where this is going.
Me too.
But okay, let's be realistic for a second.
Okay.
Besides building that gaming ecosystem, what other challenges could Huawei face?
Well, one big one is that the gaming world is kind of a mess.
What do you mean?
You've got different platforms, different operating systems, different hardware. It's hard to make something that works perfectly with everything.
So it's not just about the tech itself, it's about making sure it works with all the other stuff that's already out there.
Exactly.
They can't just release a GPU and expect everything to magically work.
Nope.
They need to figure out how to fit into the existing ecosystem.
It's going to take a lot of work.
Yeah, sounds like it.
A lot of partnerships.
It's not going to happen overnight.
Definitely not.
Well, it seems like Huawei has a long road ahead.
They do.
But they've overcome challenges before.
That's true.
So I guess we'll just have to wait and see what happens.
It's going to be interesting to watch, that's for sure.
That's the exciting part, right?
Exactly.
We're seeing the future of gaming being shaped right before our eyes.
And we have no idea where it's going.
Yeah. And I think we've given our listeners a lot to think about.
I hope so.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the one thing you want everyone to remember?
I think the most important thing is to be open-minded.
Okay.
And to embrace the possibilities.
Yeah.
Technology is always changing.
That's for sure.
And gaming is changing right along with it.
Right.
We're entering a whole new era of gaming.
Yeah.
And it's up to all of us to decide what that future looks like.
That's a great way to put it. And I think that's a perfect place to end our discussion.
Yes,
So to all our listeners out there, thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Stay curious, keep exploring, and game on.